I never wanted to accept that I had asthma in the first place and that I had this disease. I always thought of it as a disease that would control my life. I never wanted to accept that. I remember the fear and anxiety that I had when I was a kid, and in those moments I had my mom there with me, coming and comforting me and telling me that it was okay, and not letting me feel embarrassed or ashamed.
Asthma is a very common condition, first of all. Probably 8 to 10% of the population suffers with some degree of asthma. Some form of an irritation in the lungs that causes inflammation. And that can be allergy, that can be infection, it can be pollution, or very common triggers. And that leads to an over-response of the immune system and triggering of the airways to become twitchy and to narrow. And it's that inflammation and narrowing of the airways that leads to the symptoms of asthma that we see.
I went many years without any symptoms of asthma, and I thought that I had beat it. I thought that I had overcome it. But when it did come back again, when I was in my late 20s, when I was in this middle of pursuing this Olympic dream, it was really scary again, and it really, it did affect my confidence and my ability to believe in myself. And when you can't get the oxygen that you need to perform for 3 hours in your max effort, you can't compete against the other ones.
Most elite athletes, very many of them, do have exercise-induced bronchospasm, and I've interacted with a number of them, and some have told the story that they were always great athletes in high school, but maybe not Olympic level athletes, until they realized that this was going on and they got their asthma under good control.
In the middle of my training test in the Olympic Training Center, preparing for my Olympic dreams as part of the US national team, and I remember I started coughing and I got very, very sick, and I ended up going home, being sent home from the camp. So again, I felt like I had failed the training camp, and that it was because of my asthma. In those low points, I didn't know if it was possible to be in the Olympic Games, because I believed that I was weaker than the other cyclists that I was racing against.
Disappointment, frustration, they're all too often experienced by children and adults with asthma who develop difficulty coughing and wheezing, shortness of breath, tightness of the chest when exercising and when performing in sports. This does not have to be the case. Medications today, when used appropriately, they are so effective, they're so safe, they make it possible for asthmatics to fully participate in physical activities they enjoy and to reach their maximum potential, and at the same time to derive the important benefits of exercise on overall health and quality of life.
I needed to find a solution and how I was going to be able to continue training. The US Olympic Committee referred me to the Asthma and Allergy Associates of Northern California, and they figured out my disease and helped me understand it and learn to manage it. I believe that the doctors here were able to recognize that I don't need to be at 90%. I need to be at 120%, because that's where the people that I'm competing against are at.
Elite athletes are able to push themselves further than the rest of us. They're physiologically able to take deeper breaths, their hearts have bigger strokes. If you look at lung function in someone who's a very high-level athlete, they're built differently than most of us are built. That puts them at higher risk somewhat, because they are able to draw in larger quantities of this colder, drier air, and they can be challenging to treat. I have reached the highest level of the sport in my sport, and I had asthma, and it didn't keep me from doing that, and nobody has to let it keep them from doing what they want.